Welcome everybody. Welcome back to the third day of our writing workshop. It's actually amazing that we're already this far. I know it moves really fast, and I also understand if you feel like this information is overwhelming. Maybe you come in today and you're like, oh man, I didn't do any of the work Ben suggested. I didn't do what he said I should do. It's nice if you do the work, of course. It helps. It makes our class go smoother. It makes the discussion more interesting. But I'm also aware that this is a lot of work. We're kind of smashing work that you should be working on over the next couple months, if not longer, into a 6-day period, right? So some of this is stuff that you'll want to go back to. Some of this is stuff that you'll want to return to later as you're writing your essay, which again is why I'm just going to share the link again. It's why this website is so important, okay? So I've just sent that in the chat. That site has links to all the resources and materials that I'm making available to you here. In addition, Roshan's got that essay writing book and the Education USA coordinators, whether you're working with Roshan, Takmina, Donna, maybe somebody else, if you're in Kyrgyzstan or elsewhere, all those resources are available to you too. So don't trick yourself into thinking you have to pay to get somebody to help you write the perfect essay for college. It's not true. Yeah, so Diaz asks a good question. This link is available, kind of like I'm saying, for months after this. You might want this link. So this is definitely available after our sessions. So our last session is going to be, I believe, on Tuesday. But you'll be able to use this link next month, the month after that, the month after that, and so on and so on. I don't have any intention of closing this link, okay? So let's get back, welcome back everybody. Let's get back to what we were doing yesterday, and then kind of move into what we're doing today, okay? So a little bit of a review. 2 days ago, we talked about your essence objects. Those are the objects that make you who you are, right? We talked about identifying those and doing brainstorming, which is just coming up with as many ideas as we can, in the hope that we'll use some of those ideas, at least one of them, in a storytelling project that'll eventually turn into our personal statement essay. Now, to do that, to write that essay, we kind of need to know what it is and what to do and what not to do in a personal statement essay. And that's what we looked at yesterday, okay? We also looked at your values yesterday. Remember that values have some connection to your goals, okay? So these are the things that are most important to you. Different people might have different goals and values, okay? So, and then today, so last night I had assigned the article, the essay that Roshan just sent you. This is actually a difficult article. It is not easy to read. It's got some difficult language. So I'm going to go ahead and help you through this. But I thought we would start off by reading the article, okay, together. So this is from a student who got into Harvard University back in 2017. Now, Harvard is one of those well-known schools, and if I had more time to talk to you about it, I would tell you that those Ivy League schools, while they are brilliant schools, I think are somewhat overrated by college applicants around the world. There are many, many great schools out there that we never even consider applying to. And so don't let the fact that this is from Harvard make you especially fall in love with it. It's not good because it's a Harvard essay. It's good because it's a good essay, just period. It's just good on its own terms, right? And so you should consider a wide range of colleges and universities to apply to. And this is one place where the Education USA resources become so useful. Those people can actually help you with their resources and their materials, identify a huge range of universities that you could apply to. We have every year a number of students from Kazakhstan and Central Asia generally who go to universities in America and around the world. And it's not always the universities you would think of. It might even be universities you haven't heard of. So keeping your mind open to that kind of thing really increases your possibilities. With that being said, Harvard is in fact an excellent school, of course. It's worth the reputation. And this is an essay that was written for admission back in 2017. It is called Dad, or at least that's the title that is given to it in the document I have. Now, this is answering one of those prompts. And remember, a prompt is a statement that kind of leads you to write your essay. Okay, so this is a request for this information. Indicate, which means show a person or describe a person who's had an influence on you and describe that influence. So even though the essay needs to be about you and your journey, okay, you are telling a story, and in this case, the story is going to be also about somebody else, someone who had an influence on you, okay? So here's the first paragraph. And before I have you read this, I'm going to ask you a question, and you can answer in chat if you'd like. Do I have any musical people in here? Is there anybody in here? It says that my speaker's not.
You muted yourself. Ben? Okay, now you're on mute.
Okay, it's weird because my indicator still says that I can't hear me, which is weird. I don't know what that's about.
We hear you.
Everybody says they hear me, so I'm not worried about it. Okay. So Diaz says he's a musician. So the question I was asking before that, sorry about that, guys. Listen, if I start to talk and I can't be heard, or you don't hear me for a while, or you don't see the screen, always tell me. I check the chat regularly, and you can also just tell me with the microphone. Because sometimes with this online stuff, we do have some challenges. This still says that I can't be heard, so I don't know what that's about. But as long as you can hear me, I'm not worried about it. Okay, those of you who have a background in music, this is an easier paragraph to get into because there's a lot of musical language here. So the first thing I'm going to ask, it says violent staccatos. What does staccato mean? If anybody reads music, does anybody know? All right, I got a couple comments here. That's good. Oh, we're up to 97 people. That's excellent. Give me a second. I'm checking the chat. Yeah, exactly. Okay, Nurjigit has it right. These are very sharp notes. So I don't know if you can hear me, but it's kind of like, okay, very sharp, very quick. All right. With that, it says violent staccatos of the jackhammer. So you probably don't know, this is another one that we need some knowledge on. If you don't know what a jackhammer is, this is a construction tool that is used to break ground. So it is like a hammer that people stand on. As a matter of fact, maybe I should just get out of this so that I can show you a picture. Give me just a second. I'm pulling up a picture of a jackhammer. All right, good. Okay, just a second. Copy image, there we go. See if that, no, that doesn't work. That's okay. I'll just share my screen so you can see the picture. This is a jackhammer, okay? So it's a tool, you've probably seen this before. It's a tool that we can stand on. It's often in cartoons, but also in life, it's used to break ground, okay? See how the chat's going, okay? Okay, so that's a jackhammer. Okay, back to the dialogue, right? Violent staccatos of the jackhammer. So jackhammer, this instrument, it goes and breaks into the ground. Coupled with, that means combined with, rhythmic pounding of nails. So pounding is like beating into the wood, rhythmic. Like that, right? Of nails and muffled obscenities. Okay, lots of big words in this first sentence, right? Okay, you don't see. Thank you. Thank you. Give me a second. Guys, that's exactly what I want. You did that excellently. Okay, violent staccatos of the jackhammer, those really short, sharp sounds that the jackhammer makes, combined with rhythmic pounding of nails. Okay, can you see it now? Yeah, great. Okay. And muffled obscenities. So muffled means if I'm muffled or talk like this, you can't hear me very well. It's like I'm talking underwater. Okay? That's muffled. Obscenities are bad words. Okay? Comprise, make up the symphony of the construction site that has been my father's accompaniment more than half of his life. So even with all that explanation, it still may be a confusing sentence. This is an excellent opening sentence, though. What is being compared here? There are two images that we are comparing here. Now, let me see the chat. Exactly. The orchestra, which is kind of this high culture, bourgeois, if you want to think of it that way, musical event, cultural event, combined with this very like common man, hardworking job, okay, that this person's dad had, okay. So it's kind of a metaphor, right? Okay. The metaphor, which is a comparison, is father's construction work and the orchestra, the sound of the orchestra. But instead of instruments, we have a jackhammer, the pounding of nails, and muffled obscenities. Okay. While initially a position as a laborer seemed appealing to a junior in high school, strenuous, which means difficult or hard, physical labor, loses its glamour to a man eclipsing 50, a man over 50 years old with a son about to enter college. As I battled through high school, I always found myself using my father as a blueprint to build me into the person I am today. If I could have only one friend for the rest of my life, I would choose my father. He has taught me lessons that I will never forget as long as I live. Yeah, it's a difficult description. We don't need all these big words necessarily, but what we're trying to do is show the comparison between this child's life, right, who's going to be going to college, okay, and his father. Did his father go to college? Yeah, we don't know that for sure, but it looks like no, he did not, and he has a hard life. And so this is a son who's trying to have a better life than his father, but he loves his father, right? So I want you to notice here we have an essay about the father, but also about the son, the person who's applying, right? Next one. My father, now here we get an answer to that last question I just asked. My father will be the first one to admit that he regrets postponing college. And he has always instilled in me the importance of education. Okay, so postponing means waiting until later. Okay, now we're going to get more comparison here. I see the importance of education every night in the scratches and calluses, which are these big kind of hardened areas on his hands, and the ache or pain in his knees. After every scholarship or award I receive, my father firmly shakes my hand, and I tacitly, which means silently, promise to ease his pain. As I fill out my college applications, I officially become the first member of my family to apply to college immediately after high school. Okay, I broke the chain. So here you might say, what's the chain? The chain is this cycle of not applying to college right away, right? Yeah, Demir went, yeah, you're right, Demir, you're right. The father went later, but the child is trying to go right away. He broke the chain because while my friends spent summer at the beach, I worked to save money for my future. While my friends honed their wakeboarding skills, wakeboarding is like surfing. So his friends are out surfing. I discovered my passion for politics on the campaign trail. I never faltered, means I never stopped, because every night I gazed into a set of the proudest eyes before I went to bed. Whose eyes were those? Whose eyes did he gaze into? Oh, you guys are good. Yeah, that's dad's eyes. Right, good. Okay. I remember that several weeks after my parents attended my middle school graduation, I had the enormous honor of congratulating my father after he realized his dream and got a college diploma. Albeit means like, however, 30 years overdue. So much, much later, his dad got a degree also. My father's college diploma reminds me that no matter how bleak or bad a situation may appear, I have the power to better it, to improve it through diligence. Diligence, if you don't know that word, is like hard work and commitment, okay? As a freshman, my school resembled, more accurately, a 3-year-old construction site with tradition and identity yet to be established. However, rather than become discouraged, I took the initiative to pioneer, to start mock trial, speech and debate, and Junior State of America, things of which my father nor my school had never heard. In a school stained with prejudice, I co-founded, means I started, Unity Through Diversity to advocate tolerance of all races, sexual orientations, and faiths. In a community bitterly divided, very separated by political affiliation, and marred means damaged by apathy, which is like not caring, I spearheaded the Junior State of America to promote intelligent political discourse and activism. In a school with 0 football victories, our freshman mock trial team gave the school championship trophies and pride. We're going to come back to this paragraph in a second because I have some questions. Okay, Nurjagit says he doesn't hear me, so I'm going to ask again. Does everybody else hear me? You guys hear me? Okay. It's okay to have these problems. This is very, very common. So I'm going to go ahead and just say check your audio, check your own settings, because my computer is actually telling me that I can't be heard. So I'm glad you can. I'm going to come back to this paragraph in a moment and ask you some questions, but I want to finish the essay first. One more paragraph. My father is not only a member of my family. He's a friend who I can talk to after a tough day. With the clock ticking down until I leave home for college, with my father working longer days and weeks, I relish, I enjoy every moment with him. However, I also realize I must stand on my own. It is not my father's responsibility to make sure that I get what I want out of life. I must do this independently. As I say my final farewell to my father, I will forever remember that he has given me tools, but it is my job to use them to craft my future. Okay, so questions about this. I'm going to come back and look at some of these paragraphs in a moment, but questions about this first. What's your opinion of the essay? Who thinks this is a kind of a pretty strong essay? Does anybody not like the essay? Okay, close to perfect, good essay, we like it, cool essay. Good, I agree. So let me ask you a question that's not on here. What is this essay about? I know it seems like an obvious answer. Personal circumstances, that's a good answer. Relationships. Okay, I got a good question I'm going to answer in just a second here, sent to me privately. So I'm going to answer that in a moment. Core values, okay, good. Father's influence, good. A lot of people say that this is about dad, and it is about dad, Okay, it is, but it's actually not just about dad. Going back to this second to last paragraph, here we get a really nice description, not only of dad's hard work, right, and how difficult his journey to get a college degree was, but that turns into a bunch of examples of what this student has done to get into college, right? And so it's kind of been used in two ways. How he gained motivation to do his own things. So even though the essay is about his dad, the essay is also about him, okay? His dad did not do mock trial. His dad did not do speech and debate, okay? His dad did not co-found the Unity Through Diversity group. Those were things that he did, right? And so this is about dad, but it's also about others. It's about him, right? His ambitions. Okay, cool. Okay, another question, and I'm gonna somebody asked me a really good question. I'm gonna talk about at the end here, but let's go ahead here. What are some strengths of the essay? So I've already kind of mentioned that the student has a way of bringing in examples from his life to make it about himself, and that he's still centered in the essay. But what are some other good things that happen here? Okay, there is kind of a hook. We're going to get into that. A lot of academic words, maybe too many. We'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, that's good. Good language, somebody says, right? An unusual introduction. Okay, yeah, we're going to talk about that. The vocabulary might not be your favorite. I understand that. But I think for this student, they use it in a pretty natural way. Good descriptive language, I agree. So things we wouldn't do. Somebody said that he used the word passion. That was a good discovery. You're right. Let's see if I can find it here. I don't remember where that is, but it is in here. The word passion is in here, definitely. Yeah, and I said to avoid that one, right? Some people might say that we don't like the vocabulary so much that it's overly academic, okay? But it is emotionally engaging. I agree. That's a really good point. It's a real story. I've had students in the past say that this paragraph about mock trial and stuff starts to feel kind of like a list. And while I don't completely agree, I think it's true that we wouldn't need all of these examples. Maybe taking one or two of these and building on them a little bit would have been better. Okay, so even you could say, but Ben, this guy got into Harvard. Don't tell him what he did wrong. Well, even an essay that got accepted into Harvard, I think, is worth criticizing and evaluating. Okay, we're up to 107 people on a Saturday, and I really appreciate you guys being here. I just want to point that out. Thank you so much for that. Okay. So that takes us to the last question. Does reading the personal statement give you any ideas about what you could write about or how you could recognize or organize your own essay? I got a really good question from a student, and I'm not going to name this person because they asked me privately, so I think they don't want me to name them. But the question was, if I want to write about my dad, can I write about my dad without plagiarizing this essay? And the answer for me is absolutely yes, you can. So the only way to really plagiarize this essay would be to copy ideas or sentences from this essay, and that would be weird because your dad is not this guy's dad. You can't really plagiarize somebody's family member, right? Like you're taking their family. That's a very strange thing. That's like that movie Parasite or something. Like we don't want to do that. Okay, don't try to like take somebody else's life. But if you get ideas from this about how to write about your family member, I think that's fine. Sure. Okay. Something else we want to look at here before we move on, because this is a perfect segue, which is a nice word that means, I'm going to type this in the chat because I don't know if everybody knows this word. It's a way of saying transition. Okay. Yeah, you can use the idea. You can use the approach to writing about your father without it being plagiarism, right? So this is a segue. It's a transition into what we're going to talk about today, okay? This is the Common App essay. So it's true that this person didn't use the maximum limit. So the maximum word limit is 650 words. I just got a really good question about that on the chat. It's true. What can we do to build on that? How can we make this longer? I agree with you. I'll get to Shingiz's question in just a moment. To answer the question that I just asked, exactly. Thank you, Abdurrahim. Abdul Karim. I'm sorry. That is exactly what we could do. We could take those examples, the different clubs that we've organized, especially this paragraph, and actually tell the stories of those a little bit longer. Because he does have an extra 100 words, and that would be a nice thing to do. Okay, so that's something we could work on. Yeah, more descriptions of projects. Right, absolutely. Shingus has a question. Aren't admissions officers tired of hearing about dads? Maybe. But here's the thing, right? It's not so much the subject matter that you cover in an essay, all right? So everybody has some kind of academic challenge that they could talk about. Everybody has some personal dilemma that they've overcome. And on some level, those are very similar, right? But where it stands out, where the essay becomes interesting is not in what the story is, but more in how the story is told. Okay? What I mean is the approach that we take to telling the story says more about us than the fact that we loved our dad, right? And so the approach, and that actually is a great question for moving into what we're going to do today, really comes down to our use of organization to connect different ideas, but also our ability to use descriptive language. This first paragraph, even though it is challenging, is kind of a master course in what descriptive language can do for you. All right, so we don't know, looking at this right away, what this is going to be about. Violent staccatos of the jackhammer, coupled with rhythmic pounding of nails and muffled obscenities, comprise the symphony of the construction site that has been my father's accompaniment more than half of his life. Very descriptive, puts us in the center of an orchestra performance, right? And also a construction site, and gives us information about dad. Now, this writer could have said very simply, my father has been working hard as a construction worker his whole life. That could have been the first sentence, but it wouldn't have grabbed us in the way that this does, right? And so that use of descriptive language is a great way of hooking the admissions people into the essay. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The art of hook writing. How to get somebody's attention, okay? So what do we use hooks for? Does anybody in here like fishing? Rybalka? Yeah? Okay, question here. What if we write a personal statement in Russian with metaphors and then translate it into English? I don't hate it. I guess I would maybe, I might hand this one over to Roshan because she'll probably have more experience with what that looks like than I do. But what I would say is you have to be really careful about that because Google Translate and some of these other tools don't give very accurate translations. And so things might be worded much more awkwardly than you hope they would be. Roshan, what do you think about that? Writing the essay in Russian first.
It's actually very difficult then to translate it and to make it like sound creative and to make it sound actually natural, you know, like how you speak. So sometimes when I write in English and I do not know the word in English language, I will just write that special word in Russian, but the whole essay will be in English. So you should try to make it in English.
Great. And that seems like,
Google doesn't
thanks.
work.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just some kids are saying that the Yandex translator can be good.
Okay, okay. I like the compromise that Roshan has offered here, which is to try to write the essay in English as much as you can. But if you can't come up with a certain word, you can put that word in Russian for now. Okay. Another question comes from Mireille. And this is a good one. Can we use idioms? Would it be appropriate? Idioms are not inappropriate, but I think we need to be careful with them. And there's two reasons for that. One is we have to be sure we're using the idiom correctly. Okay, so idioms, if you're not familiar, these are words and phrases that, I guess another word for it, sometimes it's like slang. These are things that are used in kind of informal discussion, something you might see on a TV show from the United States. And so you could use it. I don't think it's wrong necessarily, but that's one problem is you have to use it correctly. And the other problem is you have to make sure that you're not using something that is cliched, right? We don't want to overuse certain phrases and words. Exactly. Again, to get this correct. Some idioms really start to look like cliches. And so we want to be careful with that. Okay. To get back to what I was originally saying about fishing, if you fish, then this is an essential part of your fishing day, right? I also love fishing. I'm not very good, but I do enjoy it. Okay. And so you always want to have a hook. And what do we do with the hook? We put some bait on the hook, and then the fish that we're trying to catch, hopefully on a good day, will see the bait, they'll see the food, whatever it is, on the hook, and they'll bite it, and we can catch that fish. Okay. Now, the college admissions people that you're writing to, they're not fish, and we're not going to cut them up and eat them. That's not what we're about. Okay. We're just trying to get into college, but we do want to get their attention, right? And so, yeah, the fish is not exactly the admissions office, but in the same way that we want to catch a fish by teasing them with a little bit of food, we want to catch the reader by kind of showing them something that will catch their eye and make them want more. Okay, and that's what hook writing is. That's why it's called hook writing. Okay, so as a warm up, and Roshan, I do think I'm going to put us into breakout rooms. I think. Are you okay with that? I think I'm going to do that. So as a warm up, I'd like you to think about your favorite movie and then describe how that movie starts to somebody else in the group. So I don't want you to say, oh, my favorite movie is about. We're not looking for what it's about. We're talking about the first maybe 5 minutes of the movie. Okay, if you're not a person who watches movies, that's totally fine. Maybe you're someone who reads books. Okay, maybe you're somebody who reads manga or plays video games. Could be like the first opening scenes of a video game too. Okay, we're talking about the beginning of something. Okay, so as an example, the movie Finding Nemo. I don't know the name of that Poruski, but this is a very classic Pixar movie about a fish that goes missing, and there's another fish called Dory. Okay, so I'm not going to tell you what the movie's about, right? But I'm going to describe the beginning for you. At the beginning of the movie, there's a fish, a little baby fish, okay? And there's a mom fish and a dad fish. And this is obviously a loving family of fish. And everybody seems happy. And then we hear some kind of dark, sinister music, and a predator fish, a really big predator fish, comes out of nowhere, and they all swim, and they try to swim away, and the mother is killed. And the child is injured, okay? So when the story starts, we have an injured child, this little baby fish, young fish, and a father who's afraid of losing him, okay? That's how it starts, okay? So what I'd like to do, I'm going to get us into breakout rooms. Just think about any of your favorite, and don't use the word about. I want you to describe, what are people saying? What's happening? What do we see? What do we hear? Okay, in the beginning of, again, a movie, TV series, or serial, if you want, a book, or a graphic novel or manga or whatever, okay? Just at the beginning. All right, I'm going to put us in breakout rooms, and I'm going to have us do this quickly, okay? I'm only going to give you a few minutes for this one. There we go. Okay, we're gonna wait just a second. Guys, if you're already in here, can someone just quickly tell me in the chat, can you hear me? I think I fixed my audio. Great. Okay, cool. I fixed it. All right. So if anybody wants to share in the chat box, what are some examples? Oh, it was too quick, Nortai said. That's okay. So can anybody share either with microphone? You can speak if you want. Or if you'd like, you can just put in the chat the beginning of your favorite, let's say, story, whether it's a movie, video game, book, whatever. You can type it in the chat or you can speak. Okay, so we don't want to necessarily get too into detail, but we want to know what happens at the beginning. So Gohar has a quote, "Hey boy, don't draw on those walls." I don't know what that's from, but that's cool. A lot of times dialogue is a part of a beginning, okay? You might notice if you think about, okay, Interstellar, here I've got a private quote here. That's okay. If you didn't finish, you think about this later. Interstellar is awesome, reveals a really complicated topic of science in a simple way. And the main character is sent to another planet in space. That's a really good summary. Okay, but that's not really the hook. The hook would be the beginning of the story. Okay. So yeah, Azamat has a good one here. Shawshank Redemption, my mother's favorite movie. There's a trial at the beginning. We don't know what the trial is for. We find that out later. Someone ends up going to jail. But a lot of times our favorite scenes, I'm going to move on, guys, but these are great comments. Our favorite scenes start in the middle of the action, okay? So what they do, they're actually like scenes. If you imagine a scene, okay? A scene is something where we should be able to close our eyes and picture what's happening, okay? Great, great, great. Okay. So scenes take place in real time. They're like a movie. They often have dialogue and they can be used for important interactions and events. I'm going to show you a scene on the next page. I'm going to ask you a question. I won't read this one to you. I want you to read it. I'm going to ask you a question though. What is happening? So read the next page and tell me what is happening. All right. Got some good comments here. Let's see. Yeah, I asked what happened. That's right. Okay, good comments. Okay. Lurai says it's a breakup. Okay. Could be. Don't understand anything. Good answers. You're actually both right, kind of. And that's also right. It could be a lot of things. We don't know. It was a trick question. I'm sorry. That wasn't very nice of me. We don't actually know what's happening here. So we know a couple things. There's a person, there's two people in a car. Arsen thinks it's divorce and seems to be very excited about it. Wow, maybe. Okay. So there's a she and a he. Okay, they're in a car. All right. Get some kind of note. What's in the note? Do we know what it says? Yeah, we don't know, right? Everything will be explained later, maybe. It starts in the middle, right? Okay, so we don't know what's going on. Those of you who think that this is a breakup or a divorce or something like that, why do you think so? Why do you think so? I also think so, but I'm wondering why. Why would we think this might be a breakup or something bad? There's a he and a she in a car. That might be a thing, okay? It could be a secret agent. That's true. We might have this wrong. This might not be a relationship thing. They might be spies and they're passing information. That's also possible, right? Okay, yeah, we're getting there. Okay, Damir's got a good point here. Guys, there's lots of words, and this is where that description becomes so useful, right? Lots of words that can show us that something is not good here. First off, we've got a guy and a woman in a car, and this is kind of backwards gender theory a little bit, but probably if they know each other, and it seems that they do, I don't think it's a Yandex driver or something like that, because I don't usually give my Yandex driver a note, an envelope, right? So they seem to know each other. They're in a car together. They could just be friends, but it's really weird that she's being quiet, right? So usually if you're in a car with somebody and they're being quiet, that's not a good thing. You're not like, oh boy, she must be thinking really happy thoughts about me. I'm sure that's what this envelope says, right? Probably not, okay? So the quiet is a sign that things are probably not good, okay? Okay, that's one sign. But there are some other signs that we have kind of a negative or dark atmosphere here. I heard a couple people talk about rain. Let's not worry about this picture. This is a picture I added. Let's worry just about the words. Yeah, good. Overgrown lawn. So overgrown means it's not cut. So nobody's taking care of this yard. It's been forgotten. Okay, that's one. What else? There's one more word that I always think of about the car. Yeah, good. Okay, the squeaked, the car door squeaked. So squeak is like, eh. This is not a new car. So we've got an old car. We've got a lawn that's been forgotten. We've got a yellow house, and I guess it could be a bright, beautiful yellow, but I don't imagine that. I imagine kind of a messed up, older yellow paint chipping off the walls. And we don't know exactly, but it seems like whatever is in this note is not a good message, right? Probably break up or something like that. Yeah, good. Okay, so that is a scene. It puts us in the middle. There's a little bit of dialogue, and we want more, right? A summary is different. Summaries move quickly, and they give the reader important highlights or reminders. They're often used for background information, okay? So summary often happens within scenes. A summary is a much quicker capturing of the big ideas. Usually at the end of a summary, we are not left with more questions, okay? So here's a summary of the same story. He remembered the letter she'd written him last summer. She'd given it to him on their last date, okay, so date, after he'd driven her home. She said she never wanted to see him again. He still had the letter tucked under his shirts in a drawer. Okay, so we know what was in the letter. We know what the ride was about. We know that this is about a breakup. Somebody just said that yellow is the color of parting or breaking up. That's interesting. I've never heard that before. But that could be a factor in the writing. I don't know. But here in the summary, we don't have as many questions. We might want to know why he still keeps the letter, but otherwise, we don't really have questions. This kind of answers all of our questions, right? And so a summary is great for many things, many things, but it doesn't necessarily make us want more, okay? So a scene is like something out of your favorite movie or book or video game or whatever. Okay, that's a good question. In order to I'll get to that in a little bit, okay? A summary is more like having somebody sit in front of you and tell you about your favorite movie. Okay, so Murjigit asks, is it a good thing if we can predict the plot from a brief description? Well, that's up to you. Sometimes, like if I want to watch, I like scary movies. And sometimes if I want just like a good, not very well made, hilarious, scary movie, I don't care if I know what's going to happen, right? I'm fine with that. So I'll just choose it. But when we're trying to stand out and when we're trying to be different and unique, we probably don't want somebody to know just from like a really brief description what we're about, right? Okay. So summaries are awesome for lots of things, okay? If you're a newspaper reporter, summaries are really, really important, right? You have to write news stories in a very summarized way. People don't want lots and lots of details. They want all the news in a short space, okay? If you are writing a book report, okay? If you're writing an abstract, which is like a short description that comes before a research paper, a summary is a really good thing, okay? But we are not so focused on that in this essay. We are focused on trying to grab the attention of the admissions board. We're trying to hook them, remember? And to do that, we need to make some kind of scene. We need to put the reader in the moment that was so transformational or powerful in our lives that we decided to write an essay about, okay? So how do we do that? There's a lot of things we can focus on here. So the first thing we do, we have to choose a scene. What is it you're going to be talking about? Okay? So this goes back to those essence objects that you have. The essence objects, the values, and we can also base this on the prompts that are available for the Common App. Okay? So you need to choose some kind of scene. So maybe for myself, my job is to write an essay about an experience that has changed my life. So what I'm going to do is focus on my experiences in Kazakhstan. I'm going to talk about my life in Kazakhstan and how that experience has changed my life. Living here has changed my life. Okay? All right. Once you've chosen your scene, checking the chat. Okay, cool. Some people already maybe know. If you don't know, that's fine. Okay? Then you want to ask yourself, what descriptive language can you use? So descriptive language is just what it sounds like. These are words that we use to describe things. We can think of these words as being connected to the five senses. So we don't have to use words for every one of these senses, but we can, and we should be considering it. Things that we can taste, things that we can touch, things we can see, things we can smell, and things we can hear. Now, we don't have to use all of these senses in a hook. They don't all work for everything, okay? Some of them are more useful than others. We're going to go into one that I think has some real challenges with it that can be fun. But first, I want to show you, we don't use every sense for everything, okay? Let's talk about something that a lot of people like to talk about. Let's talk about babies, okay? What do babies sound like? What do babies sound like? Siren, sweet. So babies can sound sweet. Somebody said like an ambulance. You might have babies at home, right? Babies can be really sweet. They have really sweet laughter, like kind of nice, bubbly voices. Okay. Yeah, they go, ah, okay, but sometimes they cry, and it can be a really bad screaming and crying, right? So it goes both ways. What about the smell of a baby? I've heard a lot of people say good things about the smell of a baby. Yeah, people say they smell like milk, right? Really sweet, perfume, so nice, so nice. Usually babies smell good, but then somebody also said they smell like poop. So we have to be, we got to be careful, right? If the baby hasn't had a diaper change in a while, it might not smell so sweet. So there's maybe multiple different smells. So each object might have different senses according to a context or situation. Okay, what do babies look like? What do they? What do we see? We see a baby. Yeah, they're cute. They're adorable. Kind of like tiny creatures. Somebody said they're like a doll. They've got like big baggy skin. They're kind of chubby in some ways. Very sweet looking, right? Okay, what about the touch of a baby? What about the touch of a baby? Oh, they might look like their parents, sure. Someone said marshmallow. That's a nice comparison. I like that. Soft, right? Very soft, very delicate, very light, fragile, maybe like a pillow. That's a really great comparison. You guys are awesome with the descriptive words. And then just to show you that we don't use every sense for everything, we probably would not talk about what a baby tastes like, right? So we don't use every sense for everything, okay? You might use some, but you wouldn't use others, right? Okay, so I'm going to give you another one, and I want you to think about senses: taste, touch, sight, smell, sound. Now, this one I think we can do with all, right? Exactly. We're not cannibals, so we wouldn't talk about taste of a person, just like we probably wouldn't talk about the taste of the car, okay? We might not talk about the smell of an envelope, or I guess we could, right? So certain senses we'll use and certain ones we won't. Okay. So looking at senses here, taste, touch, sight, smell, sound. Let's see what we can use to describe this. Oh yes, the mighty Bishbarmak. Okay, so yep. I see people getting hungry. Here we are. Okay, so let's start with taste, because I know that's the first thing we think of when we think about Bishbarmak. I want you to imagine Bishbarmak is something that we can get readily and easily in Central Asia, but outside of Central Asia, it's actually hard to find. So imagine that I am an American who has never had Bishbarmak, okay? And I want you to describe to me, what does Bishbarmak taste like? Soft meat. Somebody said it's tasty, okay? So we don't want to say tasty, because tasty might be different for one person to another. Somebody said it's cruel, so we might not agree with the preparation of meat. I know some people are vegetarian, but we're focused purely on the taste here. So somebody said it's salty, kind of. Again, delicious is like tasty, where it might mean something to you, but something different to me, right? It's fatty, okay? It's like chewing gum. We have to chew it a lot. Interesting, okay? It's a vegetarian's nightmare. That's funny, but it's not so descriptive, right? A little bit fatty, okay? Good. It's got potatoes involved. There's some maybe sweetness from onions. Okay, cool. Great. What does Bishbarmak feel like? Now I know Bishbarmak means 5 fingers. So what does it feel like? It's hot, it's soft, it's fat, we squeeze it. It's a combination of slippery dough, steaming potatoes, onions, and delicious meat, okay? Okay, it might remind you of your grandparents. That's cool. You could probably write a whole essay about Bishbarmak. I'm sure it could be done. Probably be a good essay. I hope everybody ate before we started our session. Okay, so let's think a little bit here. Is it dry? Is it wet? Give me a little bit of description. I'm picking this up. What does it feel like? Okay, should be kind of wet, juicy. Good. Okay. I've said before, I mean this in the best way, because I love Bishbarmak. I really do. But I would say that it's kind of slimy almost. Like it's a little bit slippery, right? It's hard to hold on to, right? Good. Okay. What does Bishbarmak smell like? Smells divine. Okay, but again, divine is Divine is one of those words like delicious where I want a little bit more description, right? What's it mean? It smells like broth. Now that's a little clearer. It smells like horse meat, okay? It smells like a dead animal. Again, kind of not clear, right? Because a dead animal that's been on the road for 5 hours doesn't usually smell like bishbarmak. So it smells like a cooked animal, maybe, okay? That might be a little bit more descriptive. But I would focus more on like the meat, smoked salty meat. Looks great. Right, because we can even talk about kaze, right? The kaze in here. Okay, now, if I ask you about, right, the meat smells like paper. Interesting. I don't know what kind of paper you got. Maybe it's true. Okay. The next one. If I ask you what bishbarmak looks like, I don't want you to just tell me what you see in front of you. I want you to close your eyes and imagine, where do you eat bishbarmak? Are you at a restaurant? Are you at your house? Where do you eat bishbarmak? It's a round table. You're at home. You're at your grandma's. You're at a guest house. So we're not at a restaurant, right? It's usually some kind of dastarkhan, some kind, right? And so, question I would ask you, what do we see there? Who else is there? Where are you sitting? Okay. What other food is there? It's not just besh, right? What else is there? Lots of relatives. You're in a village, maybe. Your parents are there. There's a big family. It's all your family is there. Okay, okay. What else is there? Is there okay, there's a TV. There's Iran there. I love Iran. Ooh, that's one of my favorites. Barsaki is there. Kulmus is there, maybe. Great. And we could talk about the descriptions of all those things too, right? Sounds good. Yeah, I know people are getting hungry. You're sitting in the least admirable seat because of your age. So you might be sitting around children, right? There's probably elders there as well. Okay. So, question for you now. What does bishbarmak sound like? What does it sound like? It sounds like falling slime. Sounds funny. Okay, somebody said it sounds like pish, 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 pish. Cool. Yeah, it sounds like mouths eating, right? Like somebody said it sounds to me one time. Someone said it sounds like bishbarmak, but it doesn't. It's not a Pokemon. It doesn't say its name. It's not like bishbarmak, bishbarmak. It doesn't do that, right? But it sounds like people eating. Okay. So that's good, right? What else does it sound like? Imagine you're there. So you hear people eating bishbarmak. What else do you hear? Chewing. Okay, the TV in the background. Usually if so my wife, Men Kubala, and so my wife has dastarkhans, her family does. And if I go to the relative's house for this dastarkhan, usually there's her uncle or somebody will give a speech. There's some kind of toast. So that might be something I would hear, right? I don't know about you, but people give lots of toasts, lots of talking, conversation between the older people. If you have a little brother or little sister, they might be crying that they want another bishbarmak or another balsaki, whatever, right? Okay, laughter, right. Good. So even if I have never been around besh in my life, you could create a scene to put me in a moment where we are having bishbarmak together, right? Pretty cool. I'm checking the chat here. Good. The sound of the cooked scream of the killed animal. Guys, we're getting a little dark there. Probably not so much. I know that's kind of a joke mostly. But yeah, I think we mostly want to focus on like what it sounds like when we're at the table with our family, right? Good. Okay. Cool. Moving on here. So again, we use these 5 senses: things we taste, things we touch, things we see, things we smell, and things we hear. Okay, let me see what's going on here. Good. Yeah, it takes time. Writing takes time. It's a good point Diaz has. And so this is all just kind of meant to get our minds going. Okay. Yeah, there's even we didn't even talk about the part where the tea comes out later, right? So once we have these senses in mind, I'm going to go back to my example, my scene. So maybe my essay is about writing an essay about an experience that changed my life. So I'm going to focus on my experiences in Kazakhstan, and my scene will be one from my life here in Kazakhstan. Okay, so here it is. For this, you should know that I used to have headphones with an on and off switch. Okay. About a block away from my university, I decided to turn my headphones off. The crunch of fresh snow under my boots was music to my ears anyway. As I climbed the steps to the front door, careful not to slip on any ice, I pondered what might come today. Oscar's jokes causing laughter throughout the room, or another poignant means important, question from Idana about our reading. It was a challenge every time, and one that I cherished or enjoyed as much as the silky warmth of my afternoon tea. I was a long way away from America, for sure, but I had to admit that I felt at home here. Okay, so I got a good question just a moment ago that I will answer in a second. But before I do that, I'd like you to look at this and think about what language, what senses am I using here? It is descriptive. I'm trying to use some descriptive language, okay? Yeah, we can start with the sound, right? So the sound of the snow, the crunch of the snow under my boots. If you're from North Kazakhstan especially, but even in South Kazakhstan, you guys also get snow. I know you do. And so you know what it's like, that fresh snow when we're crunching it. It really is a beautiful sound for me, right? I compared that to music, okay? Okay, now I didn't put on my shoes necessarily, but Shunken did not leave the chat. Shunken is here. I know they're here. But yeah, you guys get snow too. Everybody gets snow. So that's one. Another one, the maybe turning off of the headphones, right? Any other sounds in here? Yeah, the chaotic sounds of the classroom. Chaotic is one of those words that has kind of a negative meaning. I could have used that word, but it would have created a different image. So descriptive language is great because it allows us to create very different pictures using the same words, right? One good project or experiment that we could do, I don't have this prepared for today, but you could take any piece of writing and try to change the words, the description, the adjectives that you're using, the descriptive words and phrases you're using to create a different emotional feeling to the writing, keeping everything else the same. It's kind of amazing how powerful that works. This is something we need to be aware of, by the way, when we look at news sources, like what words are being used to describe something. Two people can talk about the same story in very different ways, right? Okay, sorry, kind of a tangent there. Yeah, Oscar's joke, Idana's laughter, right? Any smells in here? Yeah, well, so the tea, I could have talked about the smell of the tea. It had a smell, but I didn't. It's more of a touch, right? Silky warmth of tea. Silk, if you don't know, is a fabric that is very soft. It's not harsh at all. And when I have tea, I don't like really hot tea. It's uncomfortable for me. But I also don't like cold tea unless I'm having an iced tea, right? Usually if I want tea, especially in a cold day, I want something that's warm, but in like a soft way that doesn't hurt me. I want what I would call silky warm, okay? Right, okay. And so, just a second. All right, great. Again, back to this. That's about it. There's no smells that come up. There's no tastes that come up. There's a sight here. I'm climbing the steps to the front door, careful not to slip on the ice. I could have said I was walking like a penguin or something. This is all very, this is all very, very common language that we could use to understand each other in a description, right? Fresh snow could have a smell. It could. And so does the dirty snow that had cars go over it, right? Those are very different smells, right? And so absolutely, this is what I'm trying to get us doing, is thinking actively about all the different descriptive language we could use. Great, great. Like the freshness of the air, one of the best things about being in North Kazakhstan in the winter. You get that really crisp air, right? Okay, so all that being said, I had a good question here. Somebody asked if we could write an essay for university with a depressive theme. There aren't any restrictions. I mean, do you have to tell a happy story? No, you don't. Maybe you're telling a story about a challenge you had, and it's a challenge that you're kind of still having, right? That's okay. That's fine. You don't have to tell a tragedy. Sometimes people feel like they have to tell a tragedy, but it's definitely an option. Somebody asked if the tea is a challenge. No, the tea is not a challenge. But I challenge, or I cherish, I enjoy the challenge of answering these questions just as much as I enjoy my tea. So that's what that's trying to say. Okay. So another example. I'm going to have you read this, and I'm going to ask you, what are we seeing here? But I'm going to let you read this first. All right, a stressful experience. Two people say, wow, right? People shocked, people amazed. All that being said, it definitely leaves an impression, right? Now, before we get into this one, I do want to say a couple things. This is, you definitely don't have to write about something this intense, okay? You absolutely don't have to. And I also want to say, this is not an undergraduate student. This is somebody who is applying to graduate degree, kind of a postgraduate program, okay? So they weren't at the same place in life that you are now, okay? I wouldn't expect somebody to write something like this, but I think that this is a masterful, absolutely masterful hook paragraph for a number of reasons. So let's look at the chat here. I'm still looking for, yeah, okay, here it is. Childbirth. Somebody said it, right? Diaz said it's not a good scene. I think that's up to people's opinion. But I will say this. It's definitely intense, right? Now, I want to move through this paragraph and talk to you and kind of analyze exactly how the hook stuff is happening to create such a powerful scene. If we like it or if we don't, and I know some people are maybe disgusted by a paragraph like this, that is proof that it was a good scene because it left a strong impression on us, right? So this first sentence, through 7-year-old eyes, I watched in terror as my mother grimaced in pain. How old is the writer? We immediately get a position on it. They're 7 years old. We are instructed as readers right away to move through the eyes of a 7-year-old, okay? I watched in terror. Now, is terror good? Terror is very, very bad, right? Yeah, right. Terror is very bad. I watched in terror as my mother grimaced in pain. Now, a grimace, if you don't know what that is, you could look it up later, but this is just a look that people make when they're in serious pain. So, just looking at the first sentence, right? Because we can look at a hook as a full paragraph, but we can also go on a sentence by sentence level. And the best essays work well on a sentence by sentence level too, okay? It sets a mood, right? And so here we have a 7-year-old who's very scared. His mom is, or her mom, we don't know gender, but the mom is in terror or is in pain. And we don't know why. After the first sentence, we don't know that this is about childbirth yet. So what does it make us do? We're definitely alarmed. We're definitely paying attention. And we want to read more. It is hooking us. Even from the first sentence, it is hooking us. Okay? Now we get some touch. I held her hand, wiped her forehead with a cool wet towel, another touch, and longed for the pain to subside. Subside means go away, right? Longed like I wanted. And so here, we still don't know what's going on, but we are seeing the interaction, the closeness between this child and the mother. We understand the bad, seriousness of this situation. Okay. All our long discussions, now this is like a summary, right? We get a little bit of summary, kind of background to give us more information to help us. So sometimes when people write hooks, they make it so mysterious that we have no idea what they're talking about even after a paragraph. And we don't want that, okay? All the long discussions, all the maternity books, maternity is our first clue that this is about childbirth. All the studied fetus pictures, another clue, fetus, did little to prepare me for the birthing process. So in this sentence, we get to know, okay, why is mom in pain? Now we understand. She's having a child. Okay, now we get a sight. This is a sight sense. During the long labor, I frequently, it's kind of like a twist. It's not really a twist, but it's sort of what's happening is like you have a room, it's mysterious, and then we're turning the lights on so that we can see it better. If you want to think of it that way. That's kind of what that sentence about maternity books and fetus pictures does. It turns the lights on a little. We get to see a little bit more what's happening, right? During the long labor, now we have a sight. I frequently walked out of the room, pacing, torn between fear and loyalty. So we all remember being 7, and we all remember being scared. This is something that all of us, no matter where we are from in the world, have an experience with. And we can picture this, right? Again, we have a little bit of summary here. My 2 younger sisters were with grandma, away from chaos, and although my parents thought I was sufficiently mature to watch the birth of my brother, I was frightened. Okay, so we get a bigger picture. It's not just a child with a mom. There's also a grandma. There's sisters, okay? And there's a dad. It says my parents, right? Or there's at least 2 parents involved. I guess we don't know genders there. But we have that, okay? Now, we get lots and lots of senses in the next sentence, okay? And I want you to see how this works. I want you to notice something because this adds into what we're going to talk about tomorrow. Blood. Blood is one of those words that in some contexts could be a good thing, like we need blood to be alive, but here can be scary. It means we're seeing blood, right? We don't want blood outside of your body, right? Screams, something we hear, but again, not a good sound, probably. Breathing techniques. Again, very tense, very scary for a child. Tight squeezes on small hands. Okay, so that's probably the mom squeezing some small hand. Maybe the younger sisters, maybe the author. And later, we're going to come back to that word in a second. Smiles. Smiles are good, right? A beautiful baby. Well, that's also very good. Sisters crowding. In this context, that's good. The sisters are coming over. They're not scared anymore. Coos, which is like, ooh, it's like the sound the baby makes. And laughs. Made my first experience with obstetrics, which is a branch of gynecology. One of the most memorable and unique experiences of my life. I want you to notice something. I'm going to go back here. Exactly. There's a contrast. Yeah, okay, so screams and blood during birth, not bad. I agree. Those aren't bad. Those are an important part of the process of childbirth. I agree. But for the 7-year-old, for the person watching this, I think it's very intense, overwhelming, and probably scary. But what we see here is this phrase, and later. The things that come before and later, blood, screams, breathing techniques, tight squeezes. These are all things that maybe are not bad, but are definitely scary for a 7-year-old, right? And after and later, we get all things that are not scary for a 7-year-old. Smiles, beautiful baby, sisters coming over, coos, and laughs. And so that and later works really well as a transition. It allows us to move really well. Arsene is saying it's a contrast, and I agree completely. It's allowing us to move from one side of things to the other side of things. We are going to talk more about transitions tomorrow in our workshop. Okay, so we've looked at how to do scene writing. Now it's going to be your turn. I've got an activity that we're going to do for about the next 10 minutes. Okay, here we've got a picture. This is a surrealist picture. What surrealist means is that it is beyond real. It is not real. It is like a dreamlike state. I want you to imagine that you are in the center of this room. You are in this room. And I want you to write. Now, you can use a piece of paper in front of you. You can use your computer if you want. You can use your phone, anything you want. Okay, it looks like it might be from Narnia. That's interesting. I don't know where it's from, right? That's up to you. But I want you to write about and try to use one of each at least, but you can use more. You can write a paragraph, you can write sentences, wherever your ability level is and what you're comfortable with is what you should try. I'm going to give you about 10 minutes. I want to give you about 10 minutes to write about what you see, what you smell, what you taste, what you touch, and what you hear if you are experiencing life inside of this picture. Okay? Now, I'm going to play some jazz music. I don't want you to just write, I hear jazz. Okay? Not enough. The jazz music is meant to inspire you. Okay? That's all. That's all. It's not meant to become what you write about. Etta James would be great. I'm not going to do Etta James. I want to stay away from vocals because I think that influences people too much. But here's what I want. Any questions before we start? I want you to write. No right answers. No right answers. Only your answers. Okay? The different senses. You can tell the story if you want, but at least create a scene. Talk about what you would experience if you were inside this picture. Oh, sorry, guys. We'll give you a little more time. Sorry. All right, sorry. I'm going to give 2 more minutes, okay? Okay. All right. I think that's good. So, sorry, give me a second here. There we go. Checking the chat. Yeah, magical moments are fine. I mean, look at this picture. I think it's definitely pretty surreal. Here's what we're going to do. Yeah, anything you have, guys. With descriptive language, one of the fun things about hook writing and scene writing, or I hope it's fun, is that there's no right answer. Whatever's in your mind, the scene that you want to create, that's the right answer. And why are we doing this? I want to get more comfortable with using descriptive language. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put us into smaller groups, okay? And I'd like, if you feel comfortable with it, I would like you to share your hook writing or your scene about this picture with the group that you're in. And if you're listening to somebody else, I want you to think about, okay, what words are used for touch? Which ones are used for taste? Which ones are used for smell? For sight, and for sound. Okay, let me get us in. Great. I'm loving the comments that I'm seeing in our main area. I do want to put us in small groups just because I think some people will be more comfortable that way. So I'm only going to I'll give enough time for everyone to talk. Let's see, I want to make sure my numbers look right here. They do. You should have 3 or 4 people in a room. Go ahead. Probably in about 7 or 8 minutes, I'll bring us back.
Sorry, Ben, I've accidentally go out of the room.
No, thank you. Good, good, good. Sorry, I was doing something else. I've got you. Don't worry. I'm gonna assign you guys. I'll get you all in rooms. Thank you for saying something. I looked away for a second to get the next part of our presentation ready. There you go. All right, so we'll wait a second. People are coming back to us. I know that, so I can't really go into the breakout rooms. I'm kind of too busy making sure that the main area is right. And so it's difficult for me to go into everybody's room. I know some rooms are very active, and some rooms it sounds like are not. They're just totally quiet. So when I put you in a breakout room, it's not so you can just stare uncomfortably at other students. That doesn't really accomplish much. Right? So I hope that we can be brave enough to share a little bit of our writing. If you think, oh, I'm not a very good writer, I didn't do these beautiful paragraphs, like we've seen a lot of really great examples in the chat. But if you don't think you can do that, that is okay, right? It is fine if you just have a couple sentences. But just getting from whatever point you started at to a little bit higher than where you started should be the real goal of what we're focused on. Okay, so hopefully that was a fun activity. I think for some people that definitely was. Again, we could take any picture like this and try to write to it. It's a good way to get some descriptive language going. Give me just a second. I'm going to close my door again. Okay, so the next step, we've looked at how descriptive writing works. We understand that we need to do a scene, that we need to be focused on describing something so that we can tell a story, no matter what prompt we use. It really is time to start thinking about the prompts, okay? So if you haven't yet, we've looked at during brainstorming, we've looked at our essential objects, we've looked at our values yesterday. We understand what should and what should not go into a personal statement, okay? And so we've now looked at how to do the hook. So some students, here are the 7 prompts, again, for a common application essay. Some students, number 1, have a background, identity, interest, or talent so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, please share your story. Number 2, so that number 1 could be something about your essence objects, right? Number 2, this is about challenges you've faced. If you feel like you're someone who has faced a challenge, this would be a good one for you. The lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental or important to later success. Recount a time, remember a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience? So number 2 is about a challenge you've had. Okay, number 3, if you choose to do it.
Ben, we do not see the presentation.
Oh, goodness. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Yes, we should see the screen. Good point. I don't know what happened. I meant to have it shared. There we go. Can you see it now? Weird stuff. Thanks, guys. Thanks for correcting me on that. That's what I always need. Number 3, and again, you only need to write one of these essays, okay? You choose one. Reflect on a time, look back at a time that you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. Maybe you always felt that people who do sports cannot be very intelligent people or something, and then you made a very good friend who was an athlete and was also very intelligent, and it changed your mind about them completely. That's just one example, right? What prompted your thinking, and what was the outcome? It doesn't have to be about friends, doesn't have to be about people at all. Number 4, describe a problem you've solved or a problem you would like to solve. It can be an intellectual challenge, a research query, an ethical dilemma, or anything of personal importance, no matter the scale. If it's big, if it's small, remember we've talked about some of the smallest things are often good for the good material for the best stories, right? Explain its significance to you and what steps you took or you could take to identify a solution. And number 5 is actually quite similar in some ways to number 3. Discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others. This could be going to a new school. It could be some kind of vacation that you took or study abroad that you did. It could be a volunteer program. It could be some extra club that you joined at school. It could be a lot of different things, right? Number 6, describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging it makes you lose all track of time. So this is kind of like number 1. But instead of something interesting in your background, this is something that you really care about. It might be an academic thing, or it might be an idea that you are just so fascinated by. Why does that fascinate you? I've had students who really love, let's say, talking about space exploration. This might be the essay they would choose, okay? And then number 7, it can be an essay of any topic. I'm going to recommend, for now, that we don't go with number 7, okay? I think it's better to have some direction, all right? So let me get out of this for a second because I'm going to put this in our chat. Now, you've already got these. You've actually probably had these for quite a long time. Okay. Oh, sorry, I didn't get everything there. Let me fix that. Yes, the dad one is probably topic 7 at this point. Things have changed on the prompts, so there's not really a tribute one anymore. Some colleges, like Harvard, might have one. Harvard might have a topic that is about tribute that isn't on the Common App. I'm going to send that again because somehow it didn't all send. Sorry about that, guys. Oh, no. Why? Why does it do that? Oh, it limits me on what I can do. All right. I'm sorry, guys. Here. I'm only allowed to put so many words, I guess. There we go. There, 2 parts. There. Yep. We did it. We got it fixed. So you've got 1 through 7. You should have had that anyway, right? But there it is. It's there. And what I'm going to recommend now, we've got about 8 minutes here. I'll take questions if you want. But I got to get to the right PowerPoint. Here we go. All right. This is what we want for homework, okay? And you take as much time for this as you need. But if you can't choose a prompt, I'm going to recommend using this one. You don't have to. You could use any of those 7. But what I want you to do is think about the story you want to tell and try to write 1 hook paragraph. 1 paragraph that creates the scene for that essay, okay? You don't have to write the whole essay. I would never expect you to do that in just 1 day, all right? But I would like you to try to write a hook paragraph, a scene paragraph, or at least a few scene sentences. If that's where you feel comfortable, then that's fine, okay? But try what you can to start writing, connecting those objects and values to one of these prompts. I'm going to recommend this one, but you could use any of them. And try to write just that first hook paragraph, okay? What questions are there right now? I'll put this in the, okay, can we make it an open ending? I don't know the essay, I shot my brother. You could make an open ending, but I feel like actually being a little bit clearer in your essay is a good thing because we don't want to have the reader guessing so much at the end. They want to have a pretty clear sense of who you are. Okay, word limit on the hook. Good question. So the essay itself, the full essay, has to be 650 words or less. The ideal number of words, Roshan, I guess I would offer that to you too as a question because it is a good question. I don't know. I would say it should probably be a fifth of your essay. About 20% of the essay would be the hook. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's kind of just my rough feeling. I don't know. Roshan, do you have a different opinion on that, or?
I'm not really sure because sometimes like I saw some hooks that were just like 1 line long.
Yeah.
But just amazing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so it's true. It's a good point. Some of them are quite short and quite good. If you have a hook that kind of leads into what you want to do next, or like your future goals or something like that, let's say, maybe it's a little bit longer, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't make it too long. We can always cut stuff later, so don't sell yourself short. But we're not looking for a huge amount of writing. No, it's more about the quality of writing. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Tomorrow, let me give you a little bit of a preview. Okay. So can I send the presentation? Yeah, everything is on our website, guys. I'll make sure that this is on the website as well. Okay. It'll all be there. The same place we've been looking. I promise. I promise. Okay. So if you're feeling ready, see what the chat says. It'll be on Padlet. That's right. It's all going to be on Padlet. Then I would say ready, set, go. It's time to do it, okay? So you got the rest of the day. A huge experience is fine. That can actually be kind of overwhelming. I would almost recommend covering some smaller thing. I think that often results in more compelling, engaging essay, but not always. Sure. I don't want to limit you there. Yeah. So just a preview, tomorrow when we start off, I'm going to put us in breakout rooms, and we're going to look at each other's hooks. So I do want you to write something here, okay? Try to write some kind of descriptive start to your essay today. It doesn't have to, if you want to write more than that, if you want to continue the essay, more power to you. I support you completely, but you don't have to, okay? Any questions? Which prompt is appropriate for an asthma theme? Interesting. I'm also asthmatic, as you know. I talked about the other day. I don't know. Good question. I think there's a couple that would be good. It might be number one. It might be that my asthma is such an important part of my life that without it, I'm not who I am, right? Maybe I don't make that even a negative thing. Maybe I say that I've turned that into a motivation to never let it stop me so that I'm always traveling and exploring, right? Maybe it's two. Maybe it's the obstacles I've encountered that have led me to more success, okay? Some of my weaknesses that have turned into strengths later, okay? Maybe I always believed that as a person with asthma, there were lots of things I couldn't do. And then I realized, actually, that's not the way, and I can do more. Then it might be number three, okay? Maybe it's a problem of too many people with asthma not getting help, and it's something I want to solve. And that's number four. I don't know if you see what I'm doing here yet, but I'm not being very helpful. And it's on purpose because I think it could actually fit for almost any of these prompts, okay? Probably one of these first four. And probably the most convenient is number two, I guess. But I would say it could be for anything. Yeah.
You know, with asthma, one of my friends had asthma, and when we traveled to Malaysia, we went to one island. It was called Tioman. So there we met some, like, just a group of people. And at night, we had one person knocking the door. And when we opened the door, one guy, he was like, hey, our friend, she has asthma and she forgot her, this like tool. So we rushed there, and it was really great that my friend had an extra, respirator, how do you call it? She had an extra one so she could share. So she almost saved the life of a person.
An inhaler. Yeah.
So like her story about asthma could start from that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, starting out as like a victim or from a place of weakness, and that you end up actually saving someone's life. So that's actually very empowering.
It was great. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow, what an amazing thing to witness too for you. Yeah. So I don't want you to feel. I guess what I'm trying to say to everybody is, I'm kind of saying two things that seem to conflict with each other, right? On the one hand, I want you to narrow down what you want to talk about so that you can start to tell a story, right? You need to narrow your focus so that you can tell a story. You don't want to talk about everything in your life. You can't do that. So finding one or two unique features, maybe three unique features or accomplishments that we want to talk about, that is good to do. We need to do that. But at the same time, I don't want to narrow you and limit you from thinking that, oh, I can only talk about this or I can only talk about this because my topic doesn't fit. That's not true either. okay? So if you have any questions, you're welcome to email me. That's my email address, okay? I'm loving the questions and comments I'm getting in the chat. I know I didn't talk about the descriptive paragraphs that people wrote in our chat today, but they were wonderful. They were really good, okay? So tomorrow, we're gonna look at your hooks for whatever you're thinking for your essay, okay? All right, guys, that's it. We're at 1 o'clock. Rakmiet. This has been really fun. Go eat some bishbarmak if you want. If you're vegetarian, maybe eat some no flesh barmak. I don't know what that is called, but I think that's what it should be called, right? Yep, go ahead, guys. Have a nice lunch. Have a nice day. It's Saturday. Enjoy yourselves. I'll see you next time.